Welcome back to another edition of Holding Court with Coach Jeff Nelson. I'm JD Healy, and Coach, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of matches this past week. Then, of course, our Alum of the Week segment, cliffhanger, and then we'll talk about your upcoming road trip.
Yeah, no, and it's a crazy finish. Like I said, we have 5 matches in 12 days coming up starting Thursday at UNLV, and I do want to tell people about senior night next Wednesday. We'll be honoring 3 really special seniors.
Yeah, and definitely want to invite you all to come out to Johnson Center. That is the last home game, so we want to have you pack in the Johnson gym and be there for what's going to be a great match. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit about first on Thursday was the Wyoming match, and that was a battle, went 5.
Yeah, it was a great match with Wyoming on Wednesday night. We came out and won the first set convincingly, and really, I felt like really played good ball. And Wyoming's a great team. They've been in the top 25 this year, and they bounced back, and we knew they would, and won the next 2. And then we won Game 4 fairly easy again, I think 25-18. And it all came down to Game 5, and we, in Game 5, went down 4-1 right away and made 3 hitting errors and just couldn't regroup and get our confidence, and really played poorly in Game 5, hit negative, and it was really disappointing because I felt like it was a great volleyball match. The crowd was engaged. It was fun. 2 really good teams playing each other, and and statistically it was a match that was super close, just like the score was, and we needed to pull it out. But again, we've reviewed, spent a lot of time both after Thursday and Saturday reviewing, and we've got to get more offense. Defense is playing fine. We're blocking balls, we're digging balls, but we've got to get more offense going in, and particularly at the pins, we've got to get more offense going.
No doubt about it, but I'll tell you what, Coach, looking at the numbers here, if you just looked at the numbers of that game, we won. I mean, 63-61 in kills, so that's really close. 80-76 in digs. I mean, we're just edging them out, but I mean, if you just showed them the numbers, they'd say, oh, you must have just won that game.
And that's the craziness of volleyball, because each set is a point. We did outscore them by 2 points in the whole match, but the sets we won significantly, and we have to be engaged longer. And I'm not going to make excuses for what we did or didn't do. It was a great volleyball match.
Yes.
But if we could stay engaged longer and not ride the highs and lows, that's a match that we could turn around very easily.
Great match, like you say. That was a lot of fun from a fan's perspective for all of us to watch. Obviously, we wanted to win at the end, but giving everybody their money's worth and going
Absolutely.
5 and battling the whole way, great job by the Lobos. Then we come back on Saturday night and face off against now number 13 Colorado State. And hey, that kind of says a little something too. Colorado State comes in here and gets a win. They actually move up 2 in the national rankings from 15 to 13. There's a lot of factors involved there, I know, but I'm just going to go ahead and believe that we're part of that factor.
Well, a lot of it is what your opponents do, what your opponents' opponents do, and both schools moved up in the RPI this week too, and I was really disappointed in the way the CSU match started. I felt like we got off and looked good coming out of the gate, and about 5 points in, we're in the lead, and we just stalled. And it was, I think, a really difficult match. Colorado State blocked really well, but we knew it was that kind of match. It was like playing UNLV or Wyoming. You got to get the ball past the block, because Colorado State, Wyoming, UNLV, and us are the top 4 blocking teams in the conference, and you've got to get the ball past the block to be successful. And we didn't do that. We made a lot of bad choices, particularly in Game 1. In Game 2, I liked the way we came back. We came back and tied it at 23 after being down 5-6 points earlier in the game, and then we made hitting errors. And the nice part is, if we correct things, we can have more success. But we've got to do that, and we've got to have a better volleyball IQ about doing those things. But we were right there, and that could have really changed the direction of the match, especially how hard we battled to come back. Ashley Kelsey had 12 digs in game 2. It was a crazy game,
Big.
and we just really played great defense in game 2.
Yes, and as a team, and you said it, Coach. I mean, the team is playing really, really good defense.
Yeah.
I think that one thing is you get a little bit more production from either edge there, and this team can beat anybody.
Yeah, and those are the matches we win. When we get production, when Devin's firing, Devin is outstanding. And Julia, Julia's doing, we've talked about this almost every week. She does everything out there. And, for her, we're looking for steady at the net. And if she, the week before, she had a big match, and that helps even more. And when we did that, we won pretty easy. But she's doing a lot. I told the players in the locker room afterwards, if we had taken a picture from above the court, they would really be surprised, because Julia has sectioned off so much court that's hers for passing. It's close to 2/3 of the court. And she was standing beyond the middle of the court, just tempting teams to serve her line this week, and they still didn't do it. And it speaks to what a good backcourt player she is. But we shouldn't be doing that at this point in the season, and she should have more freedom to be on the offensive side of things. And we talked a lot about that at practice yesterday, and people need to expand their roles a little bit and take a little more responsibility for things. But and then Cassie, after shoulder surgery this summer, has had kind of an up and down. She'll have some really big games, and then she'll struggle. But I think she's heading in the right direction, and I think that she does have the ability to have the big games. But that's where we need to get more production. Passing is good, defense is good, our blocking numbers are good, but we're down in kills and we're down in assists. And the reason we're down in assists is because we're not putting the ball away. So that's the biggest place where we can pick it up, and that we need to pick it up in these last 2 weeks if we're going to finish in the top 4 in the conference.
Heck of a week for us. And just before we leave that subject, those 2 matches and going into this week, I sent you a text message after the Colorado State match, and I felt that obviously we all want to win every single match that
Sure.
That the Lobos are in. But I just have to feel like coming out of that, some of the things that the players did against a number 13 ranked national team in Colorado State in an already tough conference that is the Mountain West. There are some good things that came out of that.
There are, and battling back, taking responsibility for the things that we can improve. Really good conversations about that both Saturday night and yesterday at practice. And I felt like coming out of practice yesterday, even though we lost on Saturday and it wasn't what we wanted, you're talking about them being 13th. We don't really see that. We see them as our biggest rival in the conference, and
that's the way you should.
And so it's always really disappointing when it doesn't go your way. But I feel like our heads are on straight. I feel like we're ready to move forward. Road trips are tough in this conference. Hardly anybody has a winning road record in this conference, so we've got to really step up and have a great weekend. And but I felt like at this point in the season, do we need to train for 3 hours, or do we need to sit down, clear our heads, and get ready to go again? And that's what they did yesterday, and I think they did a really good job with it.
Awesome. We're going to talk about this week's games in a minute, but first, the segment of Alumni of the Week, and this week it's Gail Tripp.
Yeah, we're talking about Gail Tripp. Gail was one of the players that I inherited my first year here in 2007. We didn't have any seniors, so Gail was part of a group of kids that were seniors for 2 years and basically for us, and provided a lot of leadership and things like that. But Gail was really a funny kid. I'll first tell the story about my first day here. So I arrived in the spring of 2007, and my first day here I thought I'm going to have some fun with them. I'm going to just get in there, play with them a little bit, see where they're at. I like to jump in and play with them.
Absolutely.
And so Gail, I just had a bunch of alumni back visiting this weekend from that group, all four kids that were in that '07 class, and they came over to my house and we were talking and stuff, and so we had this little doubles tournament, and I wanted to see what their skills were like and stuff, and we had an odd number, so I played singles. And the first thing that happened in the semifinals was Gail came under the net and took me out. I came down on her foot, went all the way to the floor, but because it was my first day, there was no way I wasn't finishing. And Gail felt really bad. She was nervous about it and everything, and it's part of sport. And then Sarah Quasagro and Jeannie Fairchild were the other two that were still playing in that and that were part of that class. And I said, there's no way I'm not playing with it being my first day and stuff. And so we kept playing and finished the tournament, and I went home that night and couldn't walk the next day. So I showed up at practice in a boot and crutches, and I thought Gail was going to cry, and she was so nervous. She'd taken out the new coach, and it's a funny story now, and it actually was kind of a funny story then, except that I wasn't very mobile for a couple of weeks. So, but Gail lives in town. She's a mom. She has a newborn, Shay. She teaches third grade, and is really loving teaching. That's one of the things she told me this weekend, was that she really enjoys teaching, but it's a challenge, she said. She also said, she probably doesn't want me to say this, but she also said that she sees kids in her classes and thinks, oh my God, that's what I was like, you know? And I think as you get into teaching or any kind of educating, coaching, whatever, you do see things like that. And
That's not such a bad thing, by the way.
No,
I mean,
it's not,
if you look at kids and they turn out like her, she turned out to be a pretty
she's
pretty
a
good
great
kid.
and definitely a person that was a joy to have around. She was a Libero of the Year in the conference in '08. She was a first team all-conference player. She is second all-time in digs here, but she was crazy. Another story that comes to mind is Gail played left back in defense, and she would never stay there. She would roam all over and run all over, and I used to yell at her like crazy, stay home, stay in your position, stay at your base position, and she never would. So one year, we have a Christmas party every year, and they draw names and they make funny gifts, and Jade Michelson was one of the setters, and she had been a part of all that. And so Jade, for Gail's present, made Gail a harness with suction cups and said, now you put this on and you put the suction cups on the line and then you got to stay there. And it was the funniest thing ever. It's still one of the all-time great gifts that have been given out at the Christmas party, and there's been some really good ones, but Gail was so mad because it carried over right out of the season into more. But oh God, it was a funny
It's a
night.
great story because it's also another one of those ones where we as the audience now just got to look inside to something that we might not have known. Every once in a while somebody might hear an instruction that you yell to a player in, but we're probably not registering that there's a pattern to these.
Oh yeah. There's definitely a system involved, and it was funny. But I mean, Gail was a great player for us. The things Gail said were memories. They were playing at UNLV, and like I said, Jeannie was in her class, and she said Jeannie went up and six-packed the left front from UNLV, and for some reason that's a moment that sticks in her head. And then we were on a trip actually at Colorado State, and in Loveland there's a an outlet mall, and then there's a Cracker Barrel right there, product placement, and Gail and Jeannie always wanted to go to Cracker Barrel, and I wouldn't take them there because I always was like, that's too much food before you play and all this stuff. And so it was their senior year towards the end, and so we get to Loveland, and I pull into the Cracker Barrel lot, and just as they're opening the doors to get out, and they're all excited and they're screaming, I pulled back out and went to another restaurant.
You're not a nice man.
No, and she still reminds me of that every time I see her. So. But she did say it was one of her funniest moments. So, and then beyond that, I asked Gail, what advice she had for current Lobos, and her biggest thing was stay in the moment. Just enjoy it while you have it. Stay in the moment so you do your best. Don't be worried about the last play. Be worrying about the next play, and just solid coaching advice. And she's grown up in a family that's been around sports, so I think she has a fairly good handle on things.
Sports and teaching.
Yeah,
So,
both mom and dad.
yeah,
Right.
she's good to go. Well, that's Gail Tripp, and she's also a part-time color commentary analyst, for us during games, which I always appreciate when she comes by. Let's get to this week. You are headed out tomorrow, I would guess. You're on the road. First stop is Las Vegas against UNLV.
Yeah, and they're really tough at home. They're 9-1 at home.
They're tough everywhere.
Well, they haven't fared as well on the road, unfortunately, for them, because they do have a good team. They're very strong in the middle. Bree Hamill, last time they were coming in, we talked about her on the show.
Yes.
Really an outstanding volleyball player and a great athlete, and we definitely have to focus on that position and slow that position down. I don't think we can stop Bree because she's such a great athlete, but I definitely think we can manage that position and hopefully just keep her numbers at her averages, because I feel like we can really be successful in other positions. And they have a good setter, Lexi, and then they're just a solid team. They're a low error team. They've been struggling lately, and we did beat them 3-1 the first time, but it was a really good match.
Yep.
And we're anticipating that again.
Okay. You say, it's funny, I see Alexis, you say Lexi. You know so many of these players from the other teams.
Well, Lexi and Bree went with us to Europe this summer, and Lexi was our starting setter in Europe. So
we're talking about Lexi Patterson and the other player that is a standout on that team, Carly Reel.
Yeah. And Sienna Kincaid a little bit too. They, like I said, good balance, low error, solid. But Lexi also played club with my niece, so I've actually known her since probably her late junior year, early senior year. But like I said, good players and a good team to battle against, and they're really tough at home.
That's Thursday, and then on Saturday it's the Fresno State Bulldogs.
Yeah, and again, Fresno's a team that's been up and down this year. They lose a strange one, they win a big one. Kind of all over the map, but they're always tough at home too. We've struggled in the Save Mart Center in the past, but I think we've got a really good outlook on it going in. And we did win in 3 the first time, but they were 3 really good games, and we know it's going to be a battle again. They're led by Xana Bowens on the outside. She's a senior outside hitter that just puts up really good numbers for them. She's in the top 10 in the conference in kills and maybe points too, but just a really solid player that will be their leadership, no doubt, going into Saturday's game.
Right behind her, Carly Scarborough has got 281. She's only 10 kills behind.
Yeah. No, they're a team that when they're clicking are very physical, and we've got to serve tough and keep them out of a rhythm and make life a little easier for our defense.
All right, so we're going to wish you guys luck heading out of town and bring back 2 wins for us. But I want to remind everybody next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, right? No odd time for that.
No odd times this week.
Yeah.
7 o'clock, Utah State, senior night.
Bring these Sharpie markers and get lots of signatures.
Hannah Johnson, Simone Henderson, Sky Galat. And Sky and Hannah are both pursuing records as they close things out, and it's going to be close for both of them. It's going to be exciting, and but they're both within earshot of our blocking and assist records, and Hannah's really close on eclipsing 1,000 digs, which for a setter is really unusual as well.
Lots of great volleyball still to come. The season is not over. Join us here next week, 7 o'clock at Johnson Center, and you can still support your Lobos. Go to golobos.com and look for the links for this week's games. Thursday against UNLV, and then Saturday against the Fresno State Bulldogs. Plenty of action, let them know that you're watching them. And again, we expect to see you out here at Johnson Center next week. Until next time, on another edition of Holding Court with Coach Jeff Nelson.